Welcome, folks, to another podcast session for building high performance teams. Today, I'm delighted to welcome the CEO of cybersecurity company GuardYoo, Darren Sexton. Darren, welcome this morning. Good to see you.
Hey, Darragh, how are you?
Very good, very good. Darren, can we start? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, professionally, and maybe a little bit about yourself personally as well?
Yeah, I can. I'll try. I'm CEO of GuardYoo. We're a cybersecurity company based in Cork. We've been around for about 2 years now, and we specialize in what we call compromise assessment, which is like I suppose a cybersecurity audit, except we go very deep into your network, and we do this remotely, which means we can we can do this a lot faster than our competitors. So we've got there's 10 of us at the moment. We're backed by a VC in New York, and we recently took on funding from Enterprise Ireland as well, who've also backed us. I suppose personally, I'm a Cork boy. I went to school, born, reared in Cork. Work-wise, I was lucky enough. First job that I really had was with a guy called Samir Naji, who was, I suppose, one of Ireland's first real tech entrepreneurs. And he started with an Apple reseller down there by the railway station in Cork. I got a job with him, and just a brilliant learning experience. Samir was just one of these guys, just way ahead of his time. He was just like a Tasmanian devil. He just came in 100 miles an hour, out the door again. Would forget everything, forget where he's supposed to be, forget what he was supposed to do, but just had so much energy and such vision. And he grew the Horizon Group into like this is 20 years ago, at a $90 million business, and it was all Irish. Got an offer from Aircom to buy the business, and declined the offer because they said they wanted to break it up. And he said, no, I'm not breaking up my company. So he floated it, and hence the value of 90 million. So I learned a lot there. It was everybody did everything. You were on support one day, you were in the warehouse the next day. There's a friend of mine works with Teamwork at the moment, Adrian Foley. We worked together in the early days, and I remember us being in Tala in Dublin, sweeping the warehouse. He was the managing director. I was just his sidekick, but we would sweep the warehouse, and we would put all the boxes in the bays with the labels facing out, just in case a customer wanted to come in the next day. We wanted them to see that we were organized. It's just a brilliant learning experience. After that, I went to work for Sage, another great business, ERP, finance, CRM. So I really got a feel for the importance of processes, the financial software, how it can help you, and also for CRM, how collecting your information, understanding everything about your customers, how that becomes really important as well. After that, worked for Sage for 7 years. After that, moved to McAfee, which was my first kind of venture into cybersecurity, but also managing a team as well. So I built a sales team in McAfee, 21 sales reps covering, I think, 14 different countries. Made a lot of mistakes. It was my first time kind of running a team that size. Learned so much, not just about cyber, but about how to build a team, how to manage people from different countries, cultures. You tell a joke in a team meeting, half the team are laughing, the other half are insulted, things like that. You learned a lot there. And from there, I went to another cybersecurity company called Trend Micro.
Yeah.
Spent 3 years with Trend Micro, did pretty much the same thing there. Trend Micro, brilliant company, great ethos, great attitude towards promoting women especially, and diversity, and learned a lot there about that side of things. And then I went to a great Irish company, PFH Technology, the largest privately owned Irish tech company. They're pushing to do like 100 million in domestic business only. What I learned there was how to hang on to staff. I mean, some of the staff there were they're 15. It was the first time I worked in a company where there was people there 10, 15, 20, 25, even 30 years. They were with PFH.
Wow.
And the staff will always give out about the company. They'll always give about what they don't have, but none of them left. They all stayed, and they were all there like 20 years plus. And then I got an opportunity to come in and take the reins at GuardYoo and build it up. And for the first time, I got a sense of what it was like to be back in Horizon with Samir Naji. And I just said, I'd love to do that again. That was the best feeling I ever had. So wanted to do it again. Hope that wasn't too long. Hope that
No,
wasn't too long.
that was excellent. That was excellent. That was a great overview of the kind of roles that you've had in your background, and so much of it there. The kind of learnings for you as a leader and developing as a leader, and I'm sure people might like to know that, like, I know Darren, I know you going back a long way to the days when we were playing rugby in school, and I remember you being regarded as a leader even on the field way back then, and captaining many of those sides as well, of course. So it's no surprise to me to hear your stories there. I mean, Darren, just on the leadership side of things, can you tell me a bit about what it means to you to be a leader?
Yeah, and thanks. You brought back some memories there when we used to play rugby, and I think even when we played rugby, I mean, I can tell you what leadership is not to me. Okay, and that's probably easier because this is, I think, how I try to conduct myself. Leadership is not a command. It's not a command. If I do my job well enough, all I command is respect, and that's the most important thing to me. Um, I think for a long time I was trying to figure out what the secret sauce was to try and get people to come together and work as one. And what I discovered was I can't motivate anybody. It's impossible. People are either self-motivated or they're in the wrong job. I cannot motivate people. People need to be bought in. They need to be in the right place, doing something that they like, and they need to be bought into the plan for the business. Um, I've in recent years I've always tried to implement a framework that it's called Team of Teams, and it's from a company called the McChrystal Group, and it's really we try to create um, an environment what we call shared consciousness and empowered execution. So what does that mean? It means if I can articulate our plan, our vision, our strategy for going forward, then it means if I can get everybody to buy into it, and if we can all if we can focus on empowering people to do the right things, then they're empowered to make decisions without looking for approval. Because I think we've all been in scenarios, especially when we were in our careers when we were younger, where we knew a problem that had to be solved, and management were so far removed from this one problem at the coal face that by the time you went up through the chain and convinced 4 or 5 people to make the change, momentum was lost. You got a bit disheartened. Customers were maybe upset. So what we try to do is, if everybody knows what the plan is, if everybody knows what the mission is, and once it's not illegal or immoral, you have the freedom to make a decision that you think is going to further our mission. And that to me, I think, is what kind of leadership is: empowering people and giving them the freedom to make the right decision based on the knowledge and the information you give them.
You're almost empowering people to take
Absolutely.
a leadership role themselves, even
Absolutely.
even as individual contributors. That's superb. I think that sounds that's an incredible insight. Can I ask you, Darren, has for you have you found leadership to be kind of more nature or nurture for you? Is it something that you came to the table with, or is it something that you're developing and learning all the time?
Oh yeah, I think you're learning all the time, and I'm constantly reading, trying to figure out what other people are doing. Does it work for, if something works for them, does it work for us? How do we do it? You're always learning. You have to be, and especially with them. I mean, the way society is changing now, you cannot speak to a 24-year-old the way you can speak to a 44-year-old. You know, you have to learn to have empathy. You have to learn to kind of get inside their head. You have to learn what motivates them, things
Mm.
like that. So I think, you know, nurt- nurture. I think it's a bit of both, but you have to get the balance right. I think anybody who's in a sort of a leadership position should be trying to get the best out of people and helping them to become the best they can be. And I know it sounds a bit cliched, but that's it. I mean, they they say, what do they say? B managers hire C people, A managers hire A plus people. You have to be looking for people that can potentially be better than you
Yeah,
because you can't do everything.
yeah,
And I think that's really important.
yeah, yeah. That makes sense. And Darren, as a leader, you've had like you've mentioned Trend Micro and McAfee, and of course, starting off with Horizon, you've had opportunities to manage a variety of different teams and sizes, and with a lot of diversity there. Can you tell me what can you see as the key characteristics for high performance in those teams?
Yeah, I think that to me, it's they're networked internally, and they're networked externally. One, I always say to people, you have to learn to navigate the mothership really quickly, especially in a large organization where, there are people across multiple geographies, uh, different cultures, different languages, different time zones. But you need to build a network of people that can help you succeed. And likewise, you will help them succeed. So being networked is really, really important. And sharing information is, sharing information is the key to any network. Nobody is going to network with you if you don't give them something and they're giving you a lot. You know,
Yeah,
the network is the flow of information, and I think it goes back to our shared consciousness and empowered execution. When people have the freedom to make decisions, when you give somebody the freedom to make a decision, they actually all of a sudden they take that responsibility really, really seriously, and they
yeah,
step up and they say, okay, I have a decision to make here. And some cases they'll say, I haven't done this before. I could I could be blasé and just make a decision and hope for the best. But management have given me the opportunity and the freedom to make the decision, so they trust me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to speak to somebody else in the organization or somebody else outside of the organization that has done this before, and I'm going to get their input. And I think that's the networking then as well. That's the networking, and it's the flow of information, and they take it really serious,
yeah,
and they learn. And I mean, that's how people learn. They might take advice from somebody. It might be the wrong advice. Maybe they make a mistake, but that's how you learn. I
yeah,
think, I heard Paul O'Connell say years ago, experience is knowing what the right thing to do is at the right time and doing it, you know? And I think that that's how people go on their learning journey and they build their experience, and we need to encourage this. I mean, sometimes we do a lot of calls with everyone, and we've only a small team here, but we have lots and lots of calls, and a lot of the time I will start the call, I will kick off the call, and I will start the call with a sort of review on my week, and I will deliberately tell everybody everything that went wrong for me,
Yeah.
everything that didn't work out for me. Because what that does then is it passes the message along the line that failure is okay, you know, because you're all
Yeah.
trusted. We've given you the empowerment to do certain things. And if it didn't work out, share it. You know, here's the guy at the top. He's sharing all the stuff that didn't work out for him. And, you know, and it could be, I forgot to attend a meeting or something slipped. I didn't get to this thing. And I think it just sends a message down, and it encourages people who are younger, just on the beginning of their journey, to open up and not be afraid to talk about things that didn't work out for them.
Yeah, that's, I know, you know, I've heard that, not explained quite like that. That's a fascinating, that's a really nice insight, and a really nice way to look at it in terms of taking the leadership role, showing that you can make mistakes, and creating that safe environment that I've heard other leaders speak about, and that safe environment where there's trust as well can be very motivating, and get people to maybe push themselves a little bit further without the fear of failure. Um, do you see, are there kind of two or three like critical success factors that you think have to be part of every team? I know you've mentioned trust there and the safe environment, so you might have covered them. Really, are there other kind of critical success factors that would be high on your list?
I just think that goes back to recruitment. I think it's just having the right people in the right place doing a job that they are emotionally bought into.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. Some of the easiest conversations I've had have ended in people resigning. Now that sounds a funny thing to say, but you know, when you in other roles where I've had to, you know, bring people in because it's just not working, and we come in, and the first thing you do is you sit down. There's a great course called Crucial Conversations that we did when I was in McAfee, and I learned so much about that, uh, about how to approach a difficult, crucial conversation. But you know, you've brought people in, and you start the conversation, and you kind of say, "Look, this is a safe place, and we are going to have a conversation now that's going to become very uncomfortable, but we will come through it, and at the end, we will have a plan to make both our lives better." Because the reality is, when somebody's not happy in their job, they're coming into work every day with a knot in their stomach because they have to face their manager. What they don't realize is that their manager is coming into work every day with a knot in their stomach because they have to face them. And the sooner you can resolve that, the sooner everybody can get on with enjoying life again. So I think that, you know, I've sat down with people and I've said, like, you know, how do you think this is going? Are you happy here? You know, are you passionate about what you're doing? And, you know, and in the end, we come to the conclusion that, like, if you're not bouncing into work every day and enjoying what you're doing, go find something else. Go do something else that makes you happy. Are you really a salesperson? Or is this really what you want to be doing? Well, no, I'd rather be in something else. Okay, well, let's try and maybe move you sideways to something else. Or maybe you should go and, you know, become a florist or become a astronaut or become something else, you know?
Yeah.
And once you have that really kind of honest conversation, people just realize, yeah, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I should go. And it makes it very simple. So I think just if people are engaged and if they love what they're doing and they've bought into what you're about, then that's the key.
Yeah.
Right people.
Yeah, yeah, that makes total sense. That makes total sense. I've done some work on that crucial conversations.
Mm.
I was given a book on it at one stage. I must go back and have another look at it. I know there was some. It's just absolutely superb training for anyone who is in a management role and does have to have those what can be tough conversations. But if you've got a method or a template you can apply there, it makes it a lot easier. That
I
that
think that I think that the key to it is that you learn how to put the other person at ease.
mm,
As soon as you make, as soon as somebody gets an email, you know, for a request to meet their manager out of the blue, they know in their own heart and soul something's coming. They come into the meeting, they're defensive, they're waiting, they've got all their answers lined up. You didn't give me this, I didn't have that, I did. The first thing you got to do is diffuse that situation
Yeah.
and say, listen, safe place. We're
Yeah.
just going to have a conversation. I'm not worried. We're not going to talk about numbers. We're not going to talk about attendance. We're not going to talk about metrics. We just want to figure out what's best for you and and then all of a sudden people kind of relax and you learn the real story about what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's really important.
And Darren, there's, I guess that's probably one of the challenges that you have with building those high performance teams. And that's actually one of the things I was going to ask you was, like, what do you see as probably the biggest challenge in getting that high performance, in building that high performance team? What have been the biggest challenges you've come across in your experience?
Yeah, it's a good question. I suppose firstly, well, there was pre-COVID and there's in COVID. Um, Firstly, I think it's really difficult to find and identify good staff.
Hmm.
I mean, in other companies, we used to refer to it as the war on talent. We how can we attract the best people? Um, I tend to try and hire people I know, or people that I've worked with either in the same company or worked with them collaboratively when they were in other companies. I think when you know somebody and you think that they're aligned with your sort of your values and what you do, there's trust there already. Um, I encourage the hiring managers to do that as well.
Yeah.
Let's hire people we know and people we trust. Um, if you don't know somebody, it's a gamble, especially, whether they'll work out or not. Um, from a sales perspective, the best product a salesperson will sell is themselves. So they'll do a brilliant job in the interview. 3 months later, you're looking at them going, that's not the girl I interviewed 3 months ago,
Yeah.
So, um, so I mean, talent is difficult to find. You always begin the process with 100% fully committed to strengthening your team. And as the weeks flow into months, you end up hoping you hire somebody that doesn't weaken the team.
Hmm.
And so you start out here and you end up, here simply because you have to have the seat full. Um, and it's difficult, if you
Yeah.
manage to get a good person on board and they buy into this shared consciousness and empowered execution,
Yeah.
then even if you didn't know them beforehand, you have to give them the trust. You
Yeah.
have to say, our philosophy here is you give them the vision, you give them the plan, you trust them, and keep trusting them until they let you down. So it's how do I say, it's eyes on, hands off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You watch them, you don't interfere really, you help them, and you just give them the space the first 3-4 months, let them settle in and let them find their way, and just let them get on with the job.
Yeah. And I'm kind of hearing a common thread around trust and allowing people to be self-directed in order to build that high performance. And I think that's a really interesting point you made about not bringing someone in that will weaken the team. It's not only that you want to get more performance, but you have to have someone who is the right fit, who is bought in.
Yeah.
And again, like I guess you are taking a leap of faith to a certain extent based on a conversation that you have, or a couple of conversations that you have with people that might only be, a couple of hours before
Yeah.
you hire them in a recruitment process.
Yeah.
That's really interesting stuff. You mentioned, you spoke about kind of COVID, and I was going to ask you about that in terms of, we're in an era of remote work. I think there's been an element of remote work everywhere for a lot of people, but we've been thrust into it and maybe never going back to the way that we were before. Hopefully we will start to get back into offices. But have you seen kind of the fundamentals of how you lead teams and how you build that high performance? Have you seen that change with this kind of new remote work dynamic?
Yeah, I think that we're lucky at the moment because we're a startup and we have a small team, and it's easy for me to kind of check in with everybody and know them personally, and talk to everybody. Um, I think, and you know, we have part of our team is outside of Ireland as well, so that was always going to be the case anyway, you know,
Yeah,
COVID or not. What's what we would love to do is, you know, get those guys on a plane and bring them over here and sit down face to face and, I suppose, press the flesh and, you know, but that's not possible. So you have to try and build that rapport with them. Um, so obviously technology is really, really important. Um, we are all in on Microsoft Teams,
yeah,
uh, and everything we do is on Teams. And Teams is great because, like, it's just click of a button and phone rings and somebody appears on the screen and you can have a conversation.
yeah,
Um, I always try to make it a point to, no matter what you're calling them about, the first 30 seconds is just, hey Dara, how you doing? How are things? What are you doing at home? How are you getting on? Are you getting out enough? What's happening with you? And just, you know, get that sort of human connection going as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
And then we talk about whatever the issue is. So yeah, technology is really important. Microsoft Teams is what we're in. We have a paid Zoom account as backup. Never use it, but I've often wondered how many other people are in the same boat. Zoom must be making a fortune on people just paying for something that's acting as a redundancy to something else. Um, but so yeah, it's technology is really helpful, and you have
yeah,
to say, like Darry, sure, you and I, you mentioned earlier on we were in school together. Like if we thought we were in school, this is Star Trek stuff. You know,
yeah,
flick of a button, someone's on the screen, they're in
yeah,
another country, you're having
yeah,
a live conversation. It's fantastic. You know,
yeah. You're making us sound a bit old there now. But you're,
I think the wrinkles will give that away. Okay.
yeah, that's no, at my, you know, the next question I was going to ask is just around uh, the use of technology. You mentioned
All right.
Teams there,
Yeah.
you know, kind of bridging that gap with remote work. And it's, you know, especially if you've got people all over the world as you're working with at the moment, you have to use things like Teams anyway.
Yeah.
Um, and it is fantastic technology. It works so well. Are there other kind of key pieces of technology that you use?
Not really. We tend to keep it really simple. You know, we've got Teams and you've got your iPhone and, you know, Teams is on your iPhone and we use, you know, we use different internal systems like HubSpot is our CRM and digital marketing platform. That's in the cloud. Our financial software is in the cloud. Everything is in the cloud, so you can log in from anywhere.
Yeah,
They're, I think HubSpot and Teams are the two main technologies we use.
yeah,
With my cybersecurity hat on, um, I I suppose it's worth people understanding that not all these technologies are 100% safe,
yeah,
and you know criminals are not sitting at home, uh, you know, hoping somebody clicks on a phishing email and allows them in. It's not doing, you know, I think people who think ransomware attacks are purely the result of a phishing email are delusional. Um, Criminals are doing what they've always done. They identify a company, they use social media to identify staff within that company, then they do what we call a brute force attack, where they just have an engine running different variations of Darragh O'Riordan and his date of birth or his, you know, maybe they'll find out your kids' names or something like that, and they'll do a brute force attack. You know this. You have a security background, you
yeah,
know, and they'll get your credentials.
yeah,
once they have your credentials, they're going to use something like TeamViewer, for example, to get on to your network. So TeamViewer is one of the technologies I'd imagine that a lot of companies are using. You know, if you know what TeamViewer is a remote access piece of software. It's used by thousands of companies, hundreds of thousands of companies.
Yeah.
And you know the scenario: you're in Cork, something wrong with your PC, your support desk is in the US. They'll ring you. Okay, download TeamViewer. I'll come in, take control of your PC. I'll
Yeah.
fix the problem, and I'm out of here, and everything is okay.
Yeah.
Problem is, if you don't manage TeamViewer, if you don't lock it down, or even uninstall it when you're finished,
Yeah.
the hackers will use it as a way into your network. And once they're in, they'll spread like, you know, wildfire across your network. So some of these technologies have to be, people have to understand how dangerous they are as well.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
me with my security hat on.
But that's, you know what, that is an incredible insight. I've been talking to different people about kind of the key technologies to enable the remote working and to make life work more easily. But I guess with this era, even more focus is required on cybersecurity, and even more focus is required on ensuring that you're following the guidelines, you know, doing
Yeah,
simple things like your patching and ensuring that all applications are fully secure.
yeah, yeah. It's really interesting. I mean, we saw a report there recently where they say 50% of people working from home admit that they're ignoring their company's cybersecurity policies.
Wow.
And roughly about the same percentage of IT managers admitted that they are allowing this to happen to enable remote working. So, like, if you got your corporate laptop at home, like, criminals are not they're not stupid. Like, you know, they understand that people working from home, they have a corporate laptop, they have their kids next to them most of the day, so they'll download a game onto their laptop when they're finished work, give the laptop to the kid to let them play the game. I mean, do you think the criminals haven't come up at the idea of writing their own games or piggybacking off a well-known game?
Yeah.
So, like, you give the laptop to your kid and they're playing a game online. It's so open.
Yeah.
It is really, really risky.
Yeah, I'd say there are people maybe looking at this now at the moment, grabbing their laptops and pulling it off their kids and uninstalling applications.
Well,
Um,
I think it's important that they just check in with their IT departments and make sure, as you said, everything is patched, it's up to date,
yeah,
all the
yeah,
security updates are there, and you know, should be safe enough.
yeah. That's they're very very useful and sensible tips. Darren, but before I let you go, can I ask you one other question? I guess one of the things that I find really fascinating is around, you know, how leaders manage themselves, how they kind of like what they do to help them bring the best version of themselves to the office on a daily basis. I guess you are the leader. You've got to be almost got to be the person with the most energy. Not
Yeah.
necessarily, but you have to be the best version of yourself as often as you can be. Do you have any kind of hints or tips that you'd like to share about how you might do that?
Um, yeah, I think well-being is really important, and especially as you get a bit older, you need to look after yourself. I think everybody's different. What I've discovered, I think, over the last couple of years is one, um, I you go back to when we played rugby, we took so many knocks and breaks and sprains and took so many hits playing rugby that you get to our age, you can't go to a gym and train for an hour and a half. You know, you've got to find a way that you do something that's maybe low impact, or you know, takes a shorter time to do. For me, I think I mix my diet and my exercise routine. I go to the gym now. I spend less than 20 minutes in the gym. And how I counter that was I discovered I don't need a bucket load of carbs in my system to go to the gym and burn them off because I don't have time to burn them off.
Yeah.
So I had to, I went to somebody and they helped me with this balance of diet, carb intake, and being able to work out really quickly. That was
Yeah.
one thing. I think sleep is another thing. Sleep is so important. It's
Yeah.
really, really important. If you find yourself waking in the middle of the night, thinking about something that happened in work, or something that's going on, it's not good. It's not good for you.
Mm.
So you need to discover a routine that allows you to just understand your sleep patterns, and allows you to get a good night's sleep. Like I couldn't recommend that enough. Like, you've got to
Yeah.
get your sleep.
Yeah.
I think the other thing for me was, as I got older, I think it was, when I was younger, you'd hear people talking about philosophy and all this sort of stuff, and you were going, oh geez, that's very nerdy or whatever. But what I found as I got older was I started kind of asking myself, well, what is my philosophy? Like, what sort of person am I? What are my kind of beliefs? And I started exploring this, and I think a couple of years ago I stumbled across Stoicism, and I started reading into Stoicism. And no, I'm not a kind of 100% all in, but I just started reading about it, different books, the different people and their outlooks, and that helped me as well to begin to understand and accept things that happen in life.
Yeah.
And once you kind of analyze it using this kind of stoic approach, you're kind of saying, okay, it's not as bad as I thought it was,
Yeah.
and you move on.
Yeah.
And that has helped me a lot. But you know to end on a lighter note, I mean, the other thing is, maybe we should all do what we put on our resumes. Do you remember this? Your resume at the end, your interests. I like long walks. I like to watch movies. I like to read books. There's nothing wrong with the three of them either.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. And it strikes me that, like, some of the stuff you're saying, like get proper sleep, exercise, healthy diet, it seems so obvious, but it feels like we have to do what you say you're going to do in your resume. Just, you have to do it. And there's been so much research out there, and I think especially today a lot of people are challenged with their sense of well-being because of such the massive changes that are taking in our society, in work and outside of work. And it's challenging, but some of the simple things that you can do can make such a difference to your sense of well-being. So
Absolutely.
that's all. It's all super stuff. I love that. I'm going to keep that and remember it. Do what you say. Do what you have in your resume. Darren, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. Some really insightful stuff there. It's brilliant, been brilliant to listen, and I'm sure anyone who gets a chance to watch this will definitely pick up some nuggets from it. So I'd just like to say thank you so much again for your time.
Well, it's been a really great conversation, Darragh. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, thanks a million for inviting me on.